Bikes simply rule. The passion and excitement they bring. I cannot think of anything better to do with your clothes on, and they are a huge part of my life. Another huge part, obviously aside my wife and family of course, is technology and games, both of which do not seem to share my love of two-wheeled action. And now this is not to say that we have been starved of biking action over the years, but it has never secured the attention like the car world does. We've had some inspirational and epic games over the decades though, from Hang On to Road Rash, Kickstart to Motorstorm. We've had a decent selection over the years and formats, but I think most bike fans agree that the connoisseur's choice of gyroscopic action is Polyphony Digital's magnum opus in Tourist Trophy. It managed to capture the spirit, feel, breadth and joy of the motorcycle world without making it alien to those that had not ridden before. Milestone have been a keen bike team back from the early days. As a very Italian, passionate company before they were known as Milestone as Graffiti, they pushed the PC space with Screamer, a sequel, then Superbikes, Rally, MotoGP all under their belt. And a series that has been pushing and expanding for them is 2015's Ride, which landed on current gen and late PS3 and Xbox 360 gen consoles with a target of being the GT of the biking world. 5 years and 3 games later, they've refined it to the pinnacle of the series thus far. This early PC preview build allows me to talk about the game, the technology and certain elements, and everything else in between. So let's ride. The first thing is this is still a work in progress build on the PC, so there are some small glitches, performance tuning, AI areas and other things that be worked on, and that's understandable for a game still in development and yet to launch. That said though, the visual quality and performance on both my RTX 2070 and AMD RX 5600 XT machines is exceptional, and the team have moved over to Unreal Engine 4 a few years back now, and they're really showing they've gotten the hang of it here. CPU use is well spread overall across a few threads, but it does have one main worker thread that can get hammered up to 100%, very rare occasions, but certainly hovers around that 70 and 80%. So this is clearly an area in performance they'll work out to reduce that down to spread it across a few more threads, specifically in the fact that this is also going to target 60 FPS on those premium consoles, and that will be a high focus for those Jaguar cores. The base console versions will still run at 30 FPS and look very good indeed, as they always do, but the PC can obviously push far beyond 60 up to 120 FPS if you have the right hardware. Now it's entirely down to you if you want to have a fluctuating frame rate, and certain games you can deal with it, but for me and for racing games that's not an option here. I would rather target a locked 60 or a locked 120, and I think that's just slightly out of reach. Even on these RTX 2070 cards at 1080p, a locked 120 would require quite a significant reduction in the visual effects at 1080p, so for me locked 60 is the way forward. Response and control and finesse of the bikes as you're riding is excellent, and everything feels very realistic and simulation based. Certainly you can play around with the settings and the configurations in the menu to make it more realistic and turn off those horrible markers to guide you around the track and all those areas to really emphasize how hard and difficult it is to ride a bike and keep it going. That said, there are some areas in the control that I would like them to refine. Certainly it can turn in very late, it kind of runs wide all the time, it's very difficult to make this bike turn, and they overemphasize using the throttle to make the rear steer and actually slide it out. It's a very difficult skill to get right, and I've been riding for many years, and riding with the rear is very hard. Sliding and controlling it is very difficult, but you almost have to do it here with the trigger to get the bike to turn properly. So I hope they can tweak that to make sure that you can get a sharper and stronger turn in. It's a very minor gripe, but it does sometimes cause you to run wide when you think normally the bike would hold the line around that particular corner. And this is an area I know very well because there's many bikes in here I've actually owned and ridden myself, both on track, raced and track days and road. So the ZX6 here is a perfect example. I bought this brand new back in the day, and to match up here to show the quality of the visuals and the graphics overall, you can see just how close that is to my original ZX6 leathers at the very same track. The visual quality and the overall presentation is exceptionally high, and like I say, even looking back to Polyphony Digital's Tourist Trophy, this is obviously much better in all those areas. It's far more powerful hardware. What really sells the game is the details in the models, the materials, the lighting, and the overall construction of each image. One of the significant improvements they've made with this particular engine, and I'm lucky enough to have an interview with the team themselves and Yamaha and Bridgestone a couple of weeks back, in terms of all of the titles and the models in the game have now been replaced with laser scan models, 3D models, rather than using photogrammetry in other areas. This means the quality of the models themselves, the bikes, the intricate details of the calipers, the brake discs, everything has been captured in much finer granular detail, and that's completely present in the accuracy here across a like-for-like real bike to the 3D modelled and rendered one in-game. It's also down to the leathers and the riders, the animation system, the way the characters move, where the front forks dive, the way the yoke wobbles and shakes its head as you accelerate, and also the actual reservoir for the brake fluid all bobbing around, the little fluid inside that actually has a little translucent light effect, that subsurface light as it goes through the brake fluid, and it bobs and reacts to you as you're racing around the track. You get little light glints off your rear reflection, or the light glinting off your dashboard that catches a little bit of bloom. There's so many areas that really stand out as you're racing in the game in first person view, or even using the onboard GoPro replay camera system here, which is absolutely exceptional and really convinces you that you're actually just watching somebody's track day footage. Now, unfortunately, the camera quality I had back in the day when I captured this, 2007 I think it was, for this particular ZX6 that I had. So this bike itself, I don't have good quality video footage, but you can hear also that they've really worked on that sound. So Kawasaki's are well known for their raspy airboxes underneath your chest. I'm spending so much on sound is so vital. The different range of bike engines, the noise, the rasp, the exhaust, all makes a difference, specifically with headphones, and the fact you can hear other riders coming behind you, in front of you, as they ride around you, and all of that has a huge impact in the title. A VR mode in this game would absolutely blow me away, and I hope that still becomes a possibility with the next generation of consoles. But overall, the sound is one of the best I've heard on a racing game, certainly a bike racing game. It's not perfect, and outside on the track, the replays, they don't sound as good. They need to work on that and maybe just capture some of that sound from MotoGP and ramp it up a little bit just to get the sound effects. I know it might not be absolutely accurate, but it's just going to sound better. This is a game after all. In terms of content, there's loads in this game. I can't cover all of it because obviously it's a preview build and I can't talk about bits and bobs that aren't in there, but the career mode is exceptionally packed, but I'll touch on that in the full review. There are other modes. You've got to go through a whole test cycle, very much like Gran Turismo Tourist Trophy. You've got to work your skills up, go around test tracks, hit certain points, timings, time trials, races, certain points on track, different bikes, 125s, other bikes. So it does give you a variety and it builds your skill set up as you work through. And then on top of that, you've got time trial, which is obviously self-explanatory. You can race around certain tracks. You can even do track days, pick bikes, loan bikes, buy bikes. And obviously you've got the fully fledged endurance mode, which introduces for the first time a full day and night cycle, fully dynamic weather, and all of these elements are completely controllable in the menu system of each track and race, which means you can ramp it up to run from a full 24 hours of racing right up to 20 minutes across an entire day. Dynamic weather means you get day, night, headlights, shadow casting headlights, rain, the track conditions change, the grip changes, your tyres wear, you run out of fuel, and you get screen space reflections, specular reflections, and all of those elements just add a greater depth of both visual impact and also atmosphere when riding. And it enables you to do the complete Le Mans 24-hour race or wherever you want. You can ride around Cadwell Park and night to day, tramping over the mountain and holding on and hoping you don't break your femur, which has happened many times by racers, and I've personally done it, so I know how bad that feels. And overall, the game itself just has a load of variety in terms of bikes, retro bikes, the detail in each of the old bikes. The bikes I used to own as a child, like the RGV 250, the RD 350LC, NSRs, NC30s, RC30s, the legendary original Urban Tiger Fireblade, the FZR X-Up Yamaha, the list just goes on and on. Just all these exotic bikes from my childhood that used to have posters on my wall that I'd one day own and now are a figment of history. It's all very weird and wonderful to watch them, and the amount of effort, passion and detail packed into every air vent, every orifice, every screw is commendable. I find myself wasting hours on these endurance races. I really love the fact that you have all this variety of one track, getting into it, practicing the tracks, the turns, the corners, getting into that rhythm, because that's exactly what bike racing is and bike riding. It's a rhythm, and it works beautifully. On top of this, what also works beautifully is the per object motion blur. It really adds that sense of speed, that drama, both in the first person views, the third person, and certainly on those beautiful replays. And that's enhanced even further by a really sharp and crisp bokeh depth of field that's used extensively on long shots. The only minor gripe is the TAA, even on the lowest setting, is a little bit aggressive, and this has happened on the MotoGP title as well. Causes a little ghosting, so they just need to work on those velocity vectors to try and slow that down so it doesn't quite happen when you trail past the camera. It's quite obvious, but it is a minor gripe. But overall, the visual quality on the replays and the onboard cameras, first person is the only way I can ride. I can't ride in the third person view, it just doesn't feel right, but you can use that if you want to. The camera view, the fly view, it works exceptionally well. There's no problems there at all, and the content is absolutely rammed, and there is more content to come post launch. So there'll be additional bikes, additional tracks that will come for free. There is some purchase DLC stuff as well coming later on, and obviously there is going to be a full next gen mode that will be a free upgrade. If you buy the PS4 or the Xbox One version, you'll get it on the Series X, Series S or the PS5, and that will include 4K 60 FPS, obviously put likely dynamic 4K 60 FPS, fully maxed out in the visual quality on the PC, and it'll also include 20 bikes rather than 12, and that's a significant improvement. And at that point, I've got to roll off and apply the brakes for this preview of Ride 4 on PC. Milestone have certainly put in a pole position lap here to not only beat themselves but the best of the rest in Polyphony Digital, but can they take the top spot when it comes to the full race? I'm not calling that just yet. We'll have to wait for my final analysis on PC and consoles to come around launch on October the 8th, so be sure to check back then. But for now, ride safe, suit up and pin it to the stop. Rubber side down. I'll catch you on the next one.